I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about poop and what it means for our health, our hormones, and our fertility. We are going there today. We're talking about what it means if you're constipated, if you have IBS, how much we should be pooping each day, how long our poop should be, how long the transit time should be, what floating poop means, the color of the poop, what this means, and all sorts of other golden nuggets of poop. And also we're digging into castor oil packs, why this is a really essential part of your toolkit when you're on the fertility journey, and how a castor oil pack can help you right now. So excited for you to listen to this episode. Feel free to leave a review on iTunes. Hey there. Thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do is, if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. Hey there. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery call is for action takers, and really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on book a free call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's FabFertile, FabFertile.com, and click on book a free call. One theme that keeps coming up with the couples in our FabFertile Couples Coaching Program is sleep. Whether it's insomnia, having a hard time falling asleep, waking up at night, or feeling tired when we wake up, sleep is critical for fertility and hormones. And that's why I'm so excited to have Blue Blocks as our podcast sponsor. So we're exposed to blue and green light from our phones, our tablets, our computers, indoor lights, and more. And this exposure impacts our melatonin production. And melatonin is essential for both female and male fertility. It helps determine the frequency and duration of our cycle and impacts sperm. There's lots of blue light blocking glasses on the market, but the ones from Blue Blocks, they've actually compared other popular brands, and Blue Blocks block 100% of blue and green light, while other brands fall short. So I have their sleep glasses. They have red lenses, and the ones I have are a little translucent frame, and they're so stylish and really cool. And so they eliminate 100% of the blue and green light in the 400 nanometer to 550 nanometer range. So this is the exact range that has been shown in clinical studies to disrupt melatonin and negatively impact your sleep. So all you do is wear your sleep glasses after sunset until it's time for bed, and you'll notice improved sleep after just one use. And it's also cool to use when you're flying for managing jet lag. So I got to say, I was a little skeptical about the noticing improvement after one use, but literally I use these glasses and my sleep is actually already pretty good. I used them for one day, and I have to say, after one day, I had the best sleep of my life. I just felt so rested. So these glasses, they ship free and they're tracked for all orders anywhere in the world. And also they have all their frames come in prescription, non-prescription, and reading glasses. Plus you can send in your frames and they'll add the blue light blocking and green light blocking lenses to your frame. So this is an easy hack that you can add to your fertility toolkit. All you do is go to BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com. Use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout and receive a 15% discount. That's BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast to receive your 15% discount. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not want to struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
Why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming Dr. Marisol Teijerio to the podcast, and we're digging into poop and castor oil packs and what this means for your fertility. Dr. Marisol Teijeiro is also known as Queen of the Thrones, is a world leader renowned for her passion to help people understand what their poo says about their health. After receiving her degree as a naturopathic doctor, she founded Sana's Health Practice, where she has had the opportunity to help thousands of patients live happy and healthy lives. And before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey, Dr. Marisol, excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to share with you and your people.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you could share your journey and really how you came to do this work.
Yeah. So, I'm a firm believer that within the pain that we experience in our lives is where we find our purpose. And this is true in my story as well, too. My entire life and, when I was a child, I experienced severe constipation. My mother also was constantly complaining about not being able to go to the bathroom. So it was a bit of a family joke, but also like a family concern. And my father also, he was also having problems going to the bathroom, but him, it was more of an IBS, like a diarrhea type. So he would always, have those loose stools, etc. And so it was, a constant problem, a constant nagging. I remember I'd have issues also as a child, like even going to the bathroom at night, like peeing, because I would be so constipated that I always had the sensation of pressure on my bladder. And, my mother was always worried that I would have like OCD because I kept on trying to wipe or trying to go pee, before going to bed, as all kids do. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't go. I couldn't release because it wasn't pee that I had to do. It was actually that I was truly constipated. So it was a big problem for me growing up. And, when I turned around 11, constipation has all these side effects to it. It's not just only that you're constipated. For an example, there was the bladder issue. But then, I also, because when you're constipated, you tend to, back up toxins in your body, and that doesn't make you feel well. So I had a severe case also of anxiety. However, it was misdiagnosed as asthma. And at the age of, 9, 10, when I'm in my formative years, growing my bones, doing all these things, I'm put on prednisone to deal with my severe case of asthma, which actually wasn't asthma. Like a doctor hadn't done a breath test, hadn't done a physical exam, none of those things. Here I am, a moon face, probably about, 70 pounds overweight by the time I'm 11, getting into my, hormonal years. And one of my dreams is to become a dancer and to be like Liza Minnelli on stage. I also had always said I wanted to be a doctor too. So I had these two beautiful dreams of being like complete opposites, Liza Minnelli here on one side, jazz hands, and then the doctor saving lives on the other. And I remember being in dance class and my dance teacher actually isolating me from the crowd and, pointing me out and saying that I, stuck out like a sore thumb because of my weight. And, she moved on to like exclude me from the dance group, from the dance troops, so I was stuck in a group younger than me. And what she did was, exclude me from the group. She made me feel isolated. This is something that has occurred to many people, they get pushed a paradigm of someone else's belief on them, because up until that point, I felt there was nothing wrong with me. Like I was fine, go lucky, happy, thriving. But she pointed me out for a reason that really didn't need to be pointed out. And so what ended up happening, of course, when you're feeling isolated, what happens is you get an elevated level of stress. So I felt isolated from my group, my peers. It extended into school. My marks started reducing. And of course, what happened? My bowels started getting worse. I started shifting and transitioning into like an IBS, both constipated and then diarrhea, depending on my state of anxiety at the time. And of course, here I am getting more medicated with prednisone, gaining more weight. So it was just a super vicious cycle of, a lot of mismanagement in my care that really had a lot of psychologically detrimental effects. That day made me, it crushed my dreams both to be a doctor and to be Liza Minnelli, because I felt that if I wasn't good for that, how can I be good for the other? And this is something that so many people experience in their lifetime. And, I kept on, trying to push through as best I could. I went through periods of depression, which only aggravates problems going to the bathroom more. I really didn't love who I was. There was a lot of self-hate, self-depreciation. I wasn't living the best life that I could bring to this world. And to tell you the truth, I was always a child who had an enormous amount of light and brightness and love and gratitude and just wonderful things just oozing out of my body. Everyone was always commenting about my personality and just how joyous I was and happy, but that crushed it. And so I moved into my, teenage years, started having hormonal problems. My period came on incredibly late. I think I started menstruating probably around like 14 or 16, really outside of my age category. I don't even remember the age at this point. But I also always had really irregular periods. So I was dealing already at that time with a version of PCOS, overweight young girl, really, really, really irregular periods, moods all over the place from depression and anxiety. My mother eventually got fed up with the prednisone and actually just took me off carte blanche and just said there has to be another way. I mean, I don't recommend that, obviously, but my mother wasn't a doctor, but she just did it because she just was seeing the detrimental effect on it, which happens. I know many moms sometimes respond that way with the different drugs that their kids may be on. And so, I just kept on moving forward, doing what I could, finding my areas where I did, get, positive praise, which I was looking to really fit in at that point in my life. And I just really felt that I was always isolated, but there was also a huge gift in that. Because of it, I was okay being the different one, doing things differently, talking about different things, because hey, that was what my life was all about, right? I was okay being the outsider at that point. I started growing and evolving. As luck would have it, I moved into a job where I'm working for this amazing natural pharmaceutical company, still dealing with, raging IBS. My periods are all over the place. Hormonally, I'm a total disaster. I don't know when my period's coming. Like it's just crazy. I get put on Depo-Provera for birth control, which is, not a good thing either, because then now I suddenly have no period at all. So welcome to complete hormonal annihilation. It was just really like a big, big, big tragedy. And I'm working in these health food stores and with naturopathic doctors at that point. Was one of the first times I found out what a naturopathic doctor was, and chiropractors. And, I'd always ask about, the health food staff and the doctors, like, well, what do you do? I was like, what's your go-to for, IBS, or when people are having problems going to the bathroom? I'm really, really suffering. Like I'm, feeling isolated socially again, because, I'm worried to go out with friends, because I'm like, first thing I look at is like, where the heck is the bathroom, right? Just in case, and if I did go to the bathroom, I'd often be embarrassed because the smell would be so bad. There was all these like layers of emotional challenges and traumas with it, right? And I know that this is an experience that so many people out there are living with. Right? Like this is very, very common, and many of us don't even like diagnose it. Right? I was lucky that I was working in the field and began to have an understanding this was actually like a medical problem. And they would always say this one thing to me. They would say castor oil packs, and and I'd be like, well, what is it? And they show me. And the first time someone showed me that, I'm like, well, I'm definitely not doing that. I just don't have time. My life is too busy. I'm too stressful. Like I can't do that. That's going to stress me out more. Right? I was like, no. I'm not doing total resistance. Right? Yep. But it just kept on coming up, like every single person. Then I decided, I still, again, I shelved that, and I was like, nah, this is that's woo woo medicine. That's crazy stuff. Like I'm not doing that stuff. And then I started going to see doctors about my IBS and like, GI specialists. And, it was the same deal. At that point, it was, they wouldn't give me medication, which was a good thing because I was resistant to it because of my experience with prednisone. But they were also like, well, sorry about your luck. Like you can try certain foods, taking them away. And I had done that. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's not making a difference. And, they just kept on going. So I was like, whatever, there's no option. So I'm like, I'm going to go become the naturopathic doctor because one of my lovely clients from my hometown in Sudbury, was so impressed with my knowledge and how I was training doctors. He said to me, and he gave me that vote of confidence that I was so needing because I'd spent a lifetime of, again, people isolating me and me taking that in as well. Right. And owning it when it wasn't my stuff. And this man, bless his soul, Dr. Alan Price, he said to me, he goes, you need to be the doctor. You need to stop teaching and being the sales rep. You need to become the doctor and you need to start saving lives. And with that, I called my company, I quit, gave my notice, and I started the wheels moving to becoming a naturopathic doctor because I also realized that not only did I have the skills and the talents to do this, to actually achieve my dream, but I needed to figure out something to help myself. Right. I needed to take it into my own hands because the answers and things that I was getting weren't helping me, including, sometimes visiting some of the naturopathic doctors that I did visit. I hadn't been ever tested for food sensitivities. And that was a big problem in my body. Mm-hmm. And every time I would do a cleanse, I would actually feel sicker. Of course, I was never doing the castor oil packs because I was resistant against those. But when I finally was in school and finally got tested, what I realized was that all of the foods that I was being put on these cleansing diets, which were things like rice and almonds and broccoli and kale, were all my food allergens and sensitivities, all of them.
Go figure.
Right. Yeah. Right. So here I am, like, trying to be really great. Day 3 of my cleanses, all these cleanses I did. Oh gosh. And I'd be like calling the doctor and be like, I feel like really bad. Like I feel bloated. And they'd always say the same thing. It'd be, oh, this is just part of the healing crisis. This is just what happens. They're like, do a castor oil pack. It'll feel better. I still didn't do the castor oil pack. I wasn't listening there. And then, I was like, gosh. And then, but finally when I tested, I started shifting those things. So in naturopathic school, I got a lot of clarity of different things. I was, starting to take all the right supplements, doing all the right things, eating all the right foods. For me, the one factor I hadn't really taken control of was the stress factor, because naturopathic medical school is pretty intensive. We don't only learn the natural things, but then on top of it, we also have to learn what are the conventional norms as well too, right? Because we are dealing with patients who are on all the drugs, getting all the examinations, getting the testing, and we need to be able to counsel them, help them, and work with their doctors in the best way for the patient, right? 3rd year comes along and I crash. I get super sick. I can't get out of bed. My entire vitality is down the drain, literally down the pooper. I can say that now with a joke, but it was devastating. And I felt like my energy gone, everything. I just was like, wow, like this is it. I actually thought I was dying. It was to that extent. I remember calling my mother and my mother's like, you just need to take a break and you need to stop and you need to do whatever you can right now to heal yourself. Yeah. And then she said these words and they were so powerful to me. And she's like, you need to rebuild the faith in that your body can heal. And I was like, okay, Mom, right? And I remember getting into bed and I remember a thought coming to me. And it was this. It was like, what about those castor oil packs? Like, that is the one thing out of everything else that you've been doing that you've just blocked out for some reason. And, I would walk in the health food stores and like, I'd see castor oil on the shelf and it would look like a big bright light to me, like I was really blocking, I think, a message that was coming to me, probably because I wasn't ready for it, and I wasn't ready for like the experience of what I needed to suffer a bit more, I feel like, and I needed to just like really go through this part of my life. And so I actually like woke up and that was kind of like, I actually got energy from that thought of actually, I should probably do a castor oil pack. And I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I need to make it a way that I'm actually going to do it because I need to get better and I really want to finish becoming a naturopathic doctor. I found my passion. My dream is igniting. I know what I want to do. I need to do everything possible to regain that faith and to help myself heal. And so I took a trade show convention bag, cut the straps off, placed a tea towel in it, poured castor oil that I had bought and never did. which is like everybody else. So many people out there. That's like a major comment we get these days. And I poured the oil in the compress and I put it on my liver. And for the first time in my life, I felt what calm and relaxation was. And a calm and relaxation that was like a gift, and not a calm and not a relaxation forced from disease and illness, right? Because there's a big difference. I put the pack on and I never looked back. I took that pack and then I went to my boyfriend at the time and I said, I need to bring this to people because there's so many people out there who are prescribed this and this thing is healing. Like this thing has given me back faith that I can heal. And I started feeling better immediately with those packs. And, it was in like 3 to 4 days, I was able to get to all my appointments, get to my IVs, get to my things that I was doing to heal, right? Because I ended up being diagnosed with mono and a bunch of different things. I got my life back, my periods regulated, I was worried I wouldn't be able to, have babies because with the PCOS and then having been on like Depo-Provera, my periods were even worse once I went off of Depo-Provera, like hormonally, everything was wrong. Right. And then I realized that these castor oil packs were what gave me the faith, it gave me back faith in my healing. And so now my journey and my mission is really to help people no matter what they're dealing with, whether it's, infertility, which is huge. And I honor that. And it is such a major gift to be able to bring a light, like in Spanish culture, they call to give birth, dar luz, which is to give light. So that's so powerful. Like what a powerful, incredible purpose. And it's something that many of us are gifted to be able to do. And many of us are struggling, but it is within us, right? So it's just a matter of regaining that faith and a matter of resetting it, and I feel so blessed now to be able to share, the tools, like not only, castor oil packs, but also to share people about like all the work that I've done with stools because it was such a major point of my suffering. I became the expert in it because I started using castor oil packs was one of the vehicles I used, but learning about my poo was the other vehicle that I was using to connect with my body because I was so disconnected in so many ways because I was not only, I was disconnected from, community because of isolation, from, what other people have imposed on me, but I was using my stools as a way to reconnect to my body and get a real understanding of what my body, with the love letters, because stool messages are just love letters that it was telling me so that I could adjust on a day-to-day basis. And, I feel really blessed and it's amazing the growth that we're having in our company because, I guess we're just keeping good company and really working with amazing people like yourself, Sarah, and, helping people change. Like it's awesome. I'm so gifted. I'm so thrilled. And thanks for asking me.
Thanks for sharing that journey. And I think it's a lot of people are struggling with constipation and I think it's normal. And the same with then yours, then going to IBS and diarrhea, the whole other side of it. And then doing that whole self-healing journey. I like that thing about where you sort of lost faith in, that your body can heal and that resistance. It's interesting where we're like, no, I don't want to do that thing. And it's that thing that you're like, oh, that's it. But like, why don't we want to look at it? And yeah, as you say, we may not be ready to hear it. Yeah. So I really wanted to dig into the whole poop side of this thing because you've got some really cool nuggets for us to dig into. So, well, first of all, let's go back. So why is it important for and you've kind of gone through this a little bit, but why our hormones and our fertility, what does our poop tell us about that?
Yeah. So this is the thing, digestion is the center of our universe. And digestion is not only about like, the food comes in and then it comes out in a poo, but it's actually about how we are digesting our lives, right? Like, so, and digestion is the hub, the center focal point of all the hormones, all the immune system functions, and all the nervous system neurotransmitters. So the most important regulatory systems of our bodies, which are the hormonal system, known as the endocrine system, the immune system, and of course the nervous system, they all, connect within the gut. So it's a super important hub. I call it like the central station, or, of our bodies, like super important there. The key is that the hormones also are, sadly to say, not the most important regulatory system for our survival, right? Like us having a baby, when we're having problems like, or famine or an inability to digest, or we can't absorb food and nourishment, our hormones is the first place that goes off because we don't need to be having a baby when our bodies are stressed out. And any issue in terms of like, it could be an emotional stressor, it could be a toxin stressor, it could be a nutrient deficiency stressor. Any of these stressors are basically going to knock out our hormone system first. The immune system we need because that's going to be protecting us. And we always need our nervous system to be in stronger command, right? Because the nervous system is how we react, how we run away from stressors, how we deal with life, right? So, but it's always that hormonal system that goes off. So when your poops are off, automatically, like especially with constipation, and it's all these signs of your hormones being off, constipation, even loose stools, that your hormonal system is taking a brunt and is taking a back seat where it should really be, one of the royal, committees, one of the royal, family members, like it's hormones, immune system, and nervous system. Like they're the top three, like queen, king, and duchess, right? Like like the next in line, like those are the top people that need to be, working well. So that's the reason, like poop just really, connects everything together, and your hormones always take the brunt of it.
And how many times should we be pooping each day? I think there's some myths around here where people think, maybe once every couple of days is fine. That's what it's always been for me. What do you see as being the normal, quote unquote?
So this is doctors also often say to people, it's no problem if you go every 3 days. Everyone goes differently. And it's actually, they're correct because they are actually basing it on research. But the problem is how the research was done. And so maybe they haven't delved into the nitty gritty of all the research. The research in terms of transit time, which is what we say, like, from the time that the food comes into your mouth, from the time that it comes out of your body, is based on a group of people who are eating the SAD diet, or what's also known as a standard American diet. So this is a diet, I'm sure you see it with your clients and such, right? Like, fast food or, a lot of processed food, it could be based on, the food guides, which oftentimes tend to be very, very high in starches when really we need more vegetables. And, even fruits tend to be overemphasized. Like really, like my biggest thing is I really want patients to be eating a lot of fiber from vegetables, a little bit of grains, but not nearly as many that they're consuming, and stay away from things like dairy, which tends to be constipating as well too. So in these studies, what's happening is that men on average tend to go 1.7 days from the time that they've eaten their food, whereas women we happen, ladies, to just be a little bit more complicated, as my husband. So funny. But I'm like, yes, we're for sure more complicated because we have all these different hormonal balancing acts that have to happen. And this is the reason why we can give light and we can give birth, because we have this hormonal symphony that is happening. But our stat is 2.7 days. And again, but like if you're going to the bathroom every 2.7 days, eating an unhealthy diet like that, and probably undiagnosed with having some type of thyroid condition, because rampant things like Hashimoto's, an autoimmune condition, is a problem that many people are not even being diagnosed with because they're not taking the right steps to actually doing all the labs that need to be done, right? So
we see this all the time, dysregulated thyroid and undiagnosed Hashimoto's.
Yes. And one of the key classic symptoms of that is constipation and going like every 3 or 4, 5, 6 days, and truly, if you look at nature, Mother Nature, I honor her. I'm so grateful for her. She shows us what is normal. And I look at I call my little doggy Lola, my little 4-pound Yorkie, and she's my perfect example. She eats like a trucker, like she eats as much as I eat. Honestly, she eats her whole body, like girth and everything, every day. But you know what? She doesn't gain weight. And of course she's eating healthy food. She probably is the best fed Yorkie out there because she's eating a paleo / with a bit of grain diet, homemade, she eats like a queen. But she basically poops or eats and then poops, eat and then poops. And that's she's clockwork. So she's pooping every day, and she's literally pooping out the amount of food, fiber, and fluids that she should be. And if you want, Sarah, for your clients and for everyone listening out there, what the food, fiber, and fluids that you ate the day before should be the amount from your wrist to your elbow. That's a measure, which is the same size as your lower descending colon. And, many people aren't even eating the right food volume for them, the right amounts of fiber and vegetables, etc., because they can't, because metabolically their thyroid is off, their hormones are off, their food sensitivities are off, all these issues and all these problems, right? We need to shift it and start to realize that, if we look at our poo and we understand, that's a key number one that I'm looking at having patients look at all the time is how long does it take your food to come out of your body? And people can download from my website something known as the 50 Shades of Poo, which goes into the colors, but also teaches them about, a beet test, because the beet test is magic, where, you have a loading meal with beets, and then you see how long it takes your body for that to come out in your stools, right? And usually for people, it's very long. And you have to also understand that beets also have an awesome effect. They're one of my favorite vegetables because beets help you go to the bathroom better. They're amazing fiber. They're great lubricant. And they just have so many benefits for liver cleansing and detoxification and mood and gallbladder health, right? Which, cofactors in, like, it's high in glycine, which is a factor in like our bile production, which, bile is one of the signals like dumping from the liver that helps our digestion to move. So it's, you do this test and you see when it comes out, and please note your urine will be pink, like immediately after having the beets, and no, you're not hemorrhaging from the inside. This is just a normal occurrence with beets. People tend to forget. And I understand that because I do the same. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh yeah, I had beets.
So our poop, how big it should be. So I think it's like 12 inches or a banana.
Yeah. So literally, like use your wrist to your elbow. That's the measure that's personal for you, right? And it should be like the girth. You're looking, I say like banana, or I like the analogy more like an Oktoberfest sausage, right? Like a really thick Oktoberfest sausage. You're feeding a really hefty German person, right? Like we live in an area which is very German, and we have October, one of the second biggest Oktoberfest. Mm-hmm. And, they're eating these big sausages, and they need it because that's their body, and they need to like feed themselves. Right. And that's the type of sausage you're looking for that's coming out the other end. I've probably ruined Oktoberfest sausages for everybody, but but it's a good visual. So yeah, that's the ideal. And that's what you truly want to be looking for. And so that's the goal in everything that we're doing in terms of our stool, and realizing that, your doctor may be saying that, but it's not like every 3 days is not normal. You need to get checked out, and really get checked out for things like Hashimoto's, mm-hmm. even, estrogen dominance, which often comes with Hashimoto's, but some people can just be having a strong estrogen dominance, maybe from plastics in their environment or the food that they're carrying in plastics. And that also has an impact on you having a slower transit time, lack of certain key nutrients like magnesium, vitamin C. Those will make you have a lower transit time as well. So yeah, those are big factors.
And what about, so we're gonna go into the minutiae here. So when I heard you talk about this, I found this so damn fascinating.
Oh,
okay. So let's talk about stains, spackle, and smell. Can you tell me what that is and why?
100%. Yeah. So very, very important. We, we don't want to be having stains on the toilet bowl or any skid marks, I call them. Literally looks like a skid mark, and you've seen it, like family members will go to the bathroom, you'll walk in, you're like, oh. Yeah. or the toilet gets totally sprayed. So these are all signs that there's like a lot of mucus, very sticky poo, inflammation occurring in the digestive tract. You can correlate that to things like food sensitivities. Potentially, it could also be, just microbiome being disbalanced. So, a need for better probiotic, a need for, rebalancing that gut bacteria in your system. Inflammation and those things, stress, all those things are going to knock out the body and how the poo is created. And then what ends up happening is you have sticky stools, and it makes a mess over the toilet. Of course, too, another really key sign that correlates with this is something called, it's the first question I ask my patients is, are you a hyper wiper? Right? Yeah. Because it's the same deal. It's sticky poo. Like if you have to wipe your bum frequently and many different times, what's occurring there is that lots of inflammation, lots of mucus, dysbiosis. So bacteria isn't healthy. Food sensitivities, you have a significant amount of stress. Because if you look at your dog, again, I'm going back to my little queen Lola. I don't wipe her bum every time she goes poo. It's perfectly pristine, right? She's a perfect little poop specimen and perfectly pristine pooper. I never wipe it, and I only have to wipe it if she's stressed. And my little dog, ironically, well, not ironically, it's the way it goes. They take on their owner's aptitudes. Like when I'm gone for extended periods of time with work, she'll get an IBS and she'll start having diarrhea, and we'll start having to wipe her bum after we take her outside. So, it's a classic thing in indigenous cultures. When the toilet wasn't brought to them, they simply squat, they poop, and then they walk away. They don't go wipe their bum with a dry branch or anything like that. So it's classic. There's problems with what you're eating. Need to investigate food sensitivities, probably your hormones too, your gut bacteria, stool analysis. All those things are important.
Yeah, the majority of people that come to us say they don't have a food sensitivity. When we do the food sensitivity test and the elimination diet, it's in the majority do. And the same when we do the stool test, we use the GI map test.
Nice.
People come back with parasites, bacterial infections, fungal infections. So yeah, these are some cool keys here to look at. So what about the floating side of things?
Love it. So floating is, again, like when things that float on water, look into nature again as our best teacher. Oil slick. Let's use an oil slick as an example. We've all seen those pictures where, there's the beautiful little birds, sadly, all covered in oil. And what is there, like, just floating on top of the water is oil. So floating stools are just a classic sign of an inability to properly either absorb or utilize your fats. And so you're getting excess fat runoff. If it's really severe, you'll actually see an oil slick in the toilet bowl. So that we have to be cautious of. The other thing too is a lack of fiber, because, fiber does give more mass to the stool, and fiber will absorb into the stool the excess fat, and then it'll be heavier, and it'll sink better into the toilet bowl. So that's an also very big classic sign. And that can happen, I eat a very high fatty diet because for brain health, for vitality, it makes me feel satisfied, and it's what I need. Or if not, I just keep on eating, and I eat an enormous volume of food if I don't have a good, healthy fatty meal. Key note, they're healthy. And I eat high fiber, lots of vegetables. And I notice it, if I don't have enough vegetables, then what'll happen is that my poop will float a little bit more, right? So, but we're always looking for our stools to sink deep into the toilet bowl like a submarine. Sometimes you can't even see the legend that you dropped, because it's just like literally like when deep down into the toilet bowl, right? And only with medical gloves can you pull it out and see how amazing it is. But you feel it. And that's another big sign, is that when you have an amazing stool, or AKA the royal flush, as I call it, I just love what I do. It's so great. And I love that I get to share it with people and make them laugh. So thank you for laughing, Sarah. And thank you out there, everyone who's listening, that you're laughing too, and keep on laughing. It's good for your health. But that's another key sign as well too, right? So we always want to make sure that we're looking at all of these different things, like the sinking, like what's happening to it, and that sensation that we have, such a key, right? Because you're like, the stool happens so fast. Like you have the urge, and in like 3.5, it's from 0 to 60 miles per hour. Like your stool landed, it's done. You feel good. You're like, right? Yeah. And the smell, which you asked me about as well too. Right. It's little to no smell. It should not be offensive. And if it is offensive, it's a sign of different gases that are produced in our bodies, like methane gas. We can do, and we're testing these things using, lactulose breath tests, testing for methane, testing for hydrogen sulfide. But you can see that in the smell of your stools as well too. I still, have people test, but it's like you can oftentimes get these clues from your stools. And methane smells like when you've driven by the pasture and the cows have been there, or they've they're fertilizing the land, right, with the cow manure, right? That's the smell of methane, classic smell. We've all experienced it, or if we've had too many beans, or hydrogen sulfide, which hydrogen sulfide, smells more like a rotten egg. So that's another very classic smell. And usually those are pretty notorious to being this pretty offensive.
And what about the color?
Great. So again, I encourage people to go download my 50 Shades of Poop. This really, really helps to kind of do a great visual on it on my website. And color, it should be brown. It should be the color of dirt. You want it to be, it can be different shades of brown, which is absolutely fine, but we don't want it to be clay colored. That could be a blockage in your body. And that's a medical emergency. If it's red, if you haven't had beets, of course, beets will make it, red. It could be a sign of bleeding in the lower intestine. If it's black stools, black tarry stools, that's bleeding in the stomach area or the esophagus. So you could be having an ulcer. All these things need to be checked out medically. So but the color of brown, any of the shades that aren't too light and aren't too dark, you're good to go.
And what about pebbles?
So pebbles, this is what I find is amazing, is that we for years used something called the Bristol stool scale. And this Bristol stool scale really is the only measure that many people in the health field use at this point to analyze stool. And really, there are 11 golden nuggets, which is all the different things that we've talked about now. And the pebbles are just part of the scale called the Bristol stool scale. So pebbles are and it goes from 1 to 7, and 1 is the most constipated you could be, and then 7 is like liquid diarrhea, right? And in the middle, 4 is like that royal flush, right? Like the big girth, the big stool. It's like that no smell. It's got all that great stuff. The number 1, the pebbles, are basically like a severe form of constipation. And, this you really have to rule out everything we spoke about at the beginning, which is, your thyroid. Do you have Hashimoto's? Do you have high estrogen? If you're infertile, all of those things are a massive problem. Like high estrogen will knock out your progesterone, be super difficult for you to ovulate. It won't happen. Constipation is a key sign of this. Same with the thyroid, your metabolism won't be there. One of the biggest ways that I've been able to get my patients pregnant is just to assess their thyroid. And if they have, a subclinical hypothyroidism, it's impossible for their body to get pregnant, right? Their body just won't do it. Metabolically, they don't have the reserves. They're not a fine-tuned symphony yet, or a garden that is healthy enough to grow another life. So what our goal needs to be is to get our garden well fertilized and producing the proper things such as stools, which is a perfect first sign and if your stools are more often better and you're getting that royal flush more often, now we won't be perfect. And I want to be very clear here. It's not about achieving perfection in your stools every time, but it is about, progressing with your stools every time. That, my friends, is going to help you in your end goal of getting pregnant, fertile, and like a beautiful garden, because our temple is a garden, and then producing that beautiful light, which is a baby.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for all that. So I think these are things that people may know. And obviously we're seeing it in the toilet bowl every day, but we really don't kind of like, oh, what does all this mean? Like we obviously we know there's potentially a problem, but if we really dug into it, and in this case is it linked to our infertility?
Yeah. And the thing too is like, we need to connect to our bodies to work with them, right? We've been given this beautiful gift and an amazing like temple. Like I can't even, like, I'm so grateful for my body. Like, my father, we were just talking, is in the hospital. He just suffered a stroke. And it can be so devastating. And I look at him and, for him now, the normal activities of daily living, like getting out of bed, is difficult. Sitting up in bed is difficult. Going to the bathroom is difficult. Like, all these little baby things are so amazing that we take for granted on a regular basis. And what I plead for people out there, and my mission out there, is just for people to start with the most simplest of things, which is looking to connect to our bodies and the magic that is our body, and how it can produce a stool from what we eat and consume, and how it utilizes all those beautiful nourishing nutrients in our bodies and feeds us and nourishes us and makes us feel well and feel better. But we have to go into these things and understand, what it is about our stools that can do it for us. Right? And connect, really connect. And if you feel disconnected in every other aspect of your life, that's fine. Just start with getting connected with your stools now, because you do this and then getting connected in all other aspects, including your relationship, including, what you're doing in your life. Are you on purpose? Are you living your passion? All those things will come together like a huge domino effect. And all you need to do is take that very first step and start looking and connecting to what your poo is saying about you. And I would go even as far as saying, start doing castor oil packs too.
And that's what we're going to go into next year. So I know that you're the queen on this one. So castor oil packs, I've used them for years. I like to hear how you use them, what you're seeing as the best way, and kind of how they help.
Awesome. So do you remember, like life is a journey of faith. It truly is, right? We don't ever know what is going to happen moment to moment. We just take our first best step in faith, right? In understanding that, yes, this is the first next best step. And what will happen will be presented to me and I'll know where to go. And you remember how at the beginning I said that I had lost faith in my body's ability to heal? Mm-hmm. Right? Because I was doing all the right supplements. I was taking all the right things. I was, it was just all that. And I was like, if I'm doing all these things right, then why is my body not cooperating with me? Right? Like, why am I so disconnected? So, I had to go in and get connected with understanding my stools, but I also needed to rebuild that faith back in my body. And how I use castor oil packs is that they have a ton of benefits, and I'll get into them. But first and foremost is that they help you to rebuild the faith in your body's ability to heal. They 100% do. This is their job. And they, first of all, they do this. They help you to poop better, sleep better, cleanse better, bloat less, and then stress less. And those are the foundations of feeling great. Those really are the foundations that help our bodies to work well. And from a scientific perspective, like for all those doctors listening out there, practitioners, or, you have such a great reach, Sarah, for all those people who are, understanding these things, like let me put it into scientific terms using the acronym FAITH. So FAITH. So F stands for function of the digestion, absorption, and elimination. It is absolute key. Like if we're not digesting our food properly, if we are not absorbing our food properly because of stress or inflammation or bad dysbiosis, microbiome issues, whatever the case may be, we're not eliminating out regularly, daily, getting those working and progressing towards those royal flushes, well, F in faith isn't going to be working, and downstream, down the line, things won't be working well either. And A in faith stands for antioxidant status. If we can't absorb things properly in our bodies, how are we going to have good antioxidant status, right? Castor oil packs help us to digest, help us to absorb, help us to eliminate out properly. So step one helped. A, antioxidant status. Castor oil is an incredible source of antioxidants, right? It's a source of omega-6s and omega-9, similar to like oleic acid from olive oil and linoleic acid from like things like sesame seed oil, right? These are key oils that help nourish our bodies. And castor oil, its unique molecule, the ricinoleic acid, actually mimics and provides prostaglandins E3 and E1, which are the end result that people get when they are taking fish oils, which is awesome, right? And this is given to the body topically because castor oil is an incredible oil, the only oil that, because of its molecular structure and its molecular, the weight of its key component, ricinoleic acid, it's actually able to go deep into the dermis and move through the upper layer of epidermal skin, which no other oil can do. So it makes it the most incredible carrier oil as well, too, for things that people may be using like essential oils, etc. And that being said, castor oil absolutely needs to be provided in a glass bottle without doubt, because if it's not in glass, then you're also going to be absorbing things like plastic. So if you have a plastic bottle of castor oil, please discard it in the garbage can right now. Do this and go get yourself a good quality, extra virgin, hexane free, cold pressed, like the Queen of the Thrones castor oil. For me, this is the thing that I use for myself, my family, my patients, my kids, my friends. You're my friend. I don't want to ever give anybody who, like, I care about people deeply and intensely, and I know that everyone out there can feel it. Like, I really care for people and I really want people to feel better. So you need to be using the right tools to do that. But it's an amazing carrier and it goes deep into the body, and it helps us to get nourishment. Not only that, but there's polyphenols, there's all these great antioxidants. Vitamin E, helps you to recirculate your glutathione. When you do these castor oil packs, like it does a variety of different things that really gives you good nourishment for your system. And then I in the word faith stands for inflammation regulation. Inflammation is a big bad guy out there, right? Wouldn't you say? Every condition, inflammation, right? Mm-hmm. And inflammation, castor oil regulates inflammation. Like, we want a little bit of inflammation because it's purposeful. It's a mechanism of the immune system. In order to have a healing, we need a bit of inflammation. But what we don't want is you don't want them to go wild like a Californian wildfire, because then it's just devastating and it just creates havoc and displacement and burnt down dreams, burnt down homes and lives. And we don't want that. But what we want is we want balance. And so castor oil is an excellent anti-inflammatory, and more so than anti-inflammatory, it's a regulator of inflammation. And then T stands for tension and stress reduction. So when you do a castor oil pack, you actually are applying castor oil, organic castor oil in a glass bottle, to a compress. You want the compress also to be organic material, similar to what like the Queen of the Thrones is, and my handy dandy, honestly, so easy to do. It's less than 2 minutes to put your pack on and go to bed at night. It's so super, super simple. But you need to actually have a pack. You can't just only apply the castor oil to your body. You need to use the pack, because when you do a castor oil pack, there's an incredible saying out there that says this, the doctor dresses the wound, but Mother Nature and God heal the body. Right? And why that is because when you actually do a castor oil pack compress, you compress over the liver, the area of the liver. What's happening is you're stimulating nerve system receptors, like the touch receptors on the skin, compression receptors, C-tactile receptors, all these different receptors that connect into our, relaxed state parasympathetic nervous system. It's also correlated to our subconscious. It's like an automated nervous system, regulating the body. And this one specifically connects connects to the relaxed state. So when you do a castor oil pack, it's like an immediate escape button on your computer that shifts you into the relaxed state. And that shift into the relaxed state, what it does is it stimulates production of amazing hormones in your body, things like oxytocin, the love and connection molecule. Friends, this is the one that reduces the cortisol and stress in your body, that for people with, like, say, PCOS or, any type of infertility challenge, high estrogen, high, low thyroid, stimulating oxytocin in your body helps to regulate those hormonal systems really rapidly. Like, it's amazing. And then it also stimulates dopamine, which is feel-good hormones. So then you feel better. And when you feel better, guess what? You're going to be more inclined to do better in your health as well, too. Also, that's great. And that's only from putting a compress on your body, right? And that's the tension and stress reduction of a castor oil pack. And then H stands for host with the mostest. Castor oil is an amazing tool to help with regulation of your microbiome or the bacteria that's in your body, helping to balance out the probiotics with what I have termed the conbiotics, which are the con artists of the body. They're parasites. As you said, how you're testing with, GI maps, like you're seeing parasites come out. You're seeing, yeast, fungal factors come out, big problems for people. And, castor oil is an incredible tool that not only resets the microbiome, is very effective against yeast and parasites. It's been used traditionally for parasites treatments. It also breaks down biofilm. And biofilm is like, the community housing structure that, bad bacteria or bacteria in general make to protect their survival. But castor oil will help to break the biofilm down so that your body, the things that you're doing and taking, antimicrobials that you're doing, will help to regulate your microbiome. So, and that spells the word faith. Function of the digestive, absorption, elimination, antioxidant status for A, inflammation balancing, of course. T stands for tension and stress reduction, and H, the hostess with the mostest. So with your castor oil pack practice in place, you're going to be rebuilding the faith in your body's ability to heal, because physiologically you're going to be setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, I love all that. And I like when you first started talking about the body's ability to heal, because I think a lot of people going through infertility, and myself included, it's kind of like you feel that your body potentially could be broken, or, what's happening here. And there's a lot of, mental emotional stress around this, and that self-hate, kind of like, well, why everyone, we're built as women to be able to procreate. Why can I not do this foundational thing? So that in itself, and for me, when I do the castor oil packs, that tension and stress, that's where I feel it. And then it's doing all those other things, which is awesome.
And, let me add something too personally. Like when I had my actual diagnosis of a PCOS, it was around the time when I was considering going to naturopathic school, and I made that shift. One of the things that I was also really looking forward to was being able to work on my PCOS, because I had, up until the time, never really considered having babies. But what had happened was that, when it was told to me that I wouldn't be able to, I got upset, because I was like, this is a natural God-given right. This is what we do as beings, right? Like, so to have this condition that is now has taken away my light, my power, my ability to create light in this world. Like, wow, right? And that was one of my stimulating factors to become a naturopathic doctor as well. So I connect with this deeply for the people out there that are suffering and in the throes of the struggles of this and the mind gymnastics that you go through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then is there anything special you'd like to say about I think you have a castor oil system. Anything you'd like to talk about your system, or stuff, but yeah.
And also just to address a couple certain points. So when you're in the process of working to get pregnant, during pregnancy, you don't wear castor oil packs, because castor oil is a strong stimulant of the smooth muscle in terms of the intestine as well as the uterus. So, it is used to induce babies, right? So this is why this is well researched. There's good research out there. Midwives love castor oil for this reason. So once you're pregnant, you don't use castor oil packs. And if you are actively in the trying to get pregnant process, you want to watch how you are using your pack. You can definitely use it, but you want to use it strategically. So you want to be using your castor oil packs, a minimum of an hour, much, much better if you wear it overnight. As I said, my pack is super, super easy to do. It is so easy, so simple. All you do, you pour the oil, you place it on your body, you attach it, and you ideally wear an old t-shirt, because sometimes if you're a big mover at night, the castor oil pack could move around and castor oils can stain. So we want to be cautious to not not stain, or you just do what I do. My sheets all have castor oil stains and I don't care anymore because like I just love them so much. I do them every day and no one really sees the middle of my bed except, you know, my awesome, like, you know, when my daughter helps me make my bed. She'll see it and, you know, and my cleaning lady, actually, I call her my awesome home engineer. She's amazing. She's like, you know, because of course I gave her a castor oil pack for Christmas. She's like, you know, if I didn't know you and your husband are doing your castor oil packs, I'd think something funky like
was going on in there.
Great going on in your bedroom, which I thought was just classic because I had, you know, that free download, the 50 Shades of Pooh. I'm like, oh, she's so cute.
Here we go.
She's adorable. Yeah. So, but you want to be strategic on how you're doing it. So, and, you know, I also recommend, we have our castor oil pack kit, but we also have something called our beauty sleep kit. And, you know, one of the important factors in fertility is improving also things like melatonin and getting good night's rest. And sometimes just wearing a simple thing like an eye mask and, you know, and
life changing for me, the eye mask. I haven't,
right?
I literally the last year, I'm like, how did I go my whole life without this eye mask?
Yeah, it's a huge game changer. So we have a whole kit called the Queen's Kit where you get all of our products, including like a poop spray. So after you poo and, you know, a grateful bracelet so you can adopt a grateful practice with your eating so that, you know, just because we're really trying to do things that are supplement free so that we can do things with practices of our lives. And these practices, like these are the 5 top practices that I do with all my patients and that have been the biggest game changers. So, and they're simple. They're so simple to do. We connect them to practices that you're already doing in your life. So your castor oil pack you do with your sleep routine at the end of the night, you know, and then you add in wearing an eye mask and putting castor oil around your eyes. And number one, it's great for our looks. Like it helps to reduce the fine lines and wrinkles, but also helps with thickening eyebrows and eyelashes. So, you know, for women who are dealing with thyroid problems and infertility issues, big deal. And when you do that, the eye mask, the pressure around the eyes, similar to the sensation that you get with the light pressure and the sensation that you get with the oxytocin production, you're stimulating your pituitary gland, right? Which is implicated in your hormonal issues. It's a master gland. These are the things that I want people to do. The castor oil pack itself, you want to be using it when you're in the active throes of, you know, I'm ovulating, let's have sex, let's do this, you know, legs up, all the all the stuff. And I can only laugh because I've been there, right? Because now I'm like, the things we do, which is awesome. So kudos, guys, keep it up. All of this stuff works. At the end of the day, like what you're doing is you're going to be using your castor oil pack from day 1, which is the day that you first bleed, up until the day that you ovulate. So I always say day 12 to day 15, and then you stop doing the castor oil pack, and you allow like your ovulation, the passage of your egg, you're working at getting pregnant. Then that's what you're doing at that point in time, right? That is your job. And then once you start bleeding again, you start doing your castor oil packs again, and keep on going like that. And then and stay consistent. Do them nightly. You know, there's really good research that shows like castor oil also helps to support something called nitric oxide, which I didn't mention earlier on, but nitric oxide helps with blood flow. So you can imagine it's going to help with blood flow to your uterus, blood flow to your fallopian tubes, blood flow to your ovaries, right? And nitric oxide, you know, is also very good at helping to regulate microbiome and also at reducing yeast in your body. So if you're also one of those women who's had lots of problems with like, you know, yeast infections, this is also something that's very, very good for you, right? This is part of your foundational practice.
Yeah, that's me too. Chronic yeast. So yeah, I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure at 28, had both my kids with donor eggs, and years later discovered all these food sensitivities, thyroid dysfunction, all this stuff. My stool was great until it wasn't. And so I'm using a castor oil pack, but I use a hot water bottle. So what are you doing then to have it go overnight?
Again, with ours, you don't need to. It's just so simple because it actually keeps the oil and your own body heat, so you'll warm up naturally. The only time I say to use a hot water bottle is if you feel that you're just really, really, really a cold person and you just want to add that extra element. That'll be the only time. Yeah, but honestly, you don't need it. And again, let's keep it simple so that we can just keep it consistent, right? And then that's your goal. And if you keep it consistent, then you're on your journey, you're on your way. Like things are going to manifest for you. And worst case scenario, if they don't, you know what? You're so much healthier and you feel better, and that's the ultimate goal, right? But you know, our success in clinical practice in terms of with just like people adopting the castor oil packs, it's incredible. Like it really it's such a game changer for fertility. And it's amazing to regain that faith back in your body, right? And to see the end result of it. So I really really encourage people to the simple practice that has such profound benefits and, has been around since the beginning of time for a reason. Like castor oil was being used 4000 BC. It was used by Hippocrates, these castor oil packs, Galen, fathers of medicine, all the doctors to the royal emperor's courts in Rome, in Greek medicine practices, Ayurvedic, ancient Indian Ayurvedic practices, traditional Chinese medicine texts. Like this is serious stuff. This is serious, amazing stuff. Like it has had a major history. And, I think it's become that secret that, people who know use it, and people who don't know haven't been. And this is why I'm out here teaching people about it, because I think I know what I've seen in practice. Like if a patient comes in and they're not better, I'm like, have you been doing your castor oil pack? And they're like, well, no, they have that same resistance like I did. And now they have no reason because now it's easy.
So with that, is there a success story you'd like to share with us?
Oh gosh, there's so many, but I can tell you, one of my awesome patients who has been with me for about 10 years, she came to me initially, she was actually in the throes of, in vitro. And I said to her, I'm like, why don't you pause in vitro? And this is where I come with the garden analogy. And I said to her, your body is a garden, and even though you're doing in vitro, you're going to be spending a lot of money, and, the likelihood of it working when the body isn't healthy and you're not balanced and you don't have that beautiful garden that can produce beautiful, vegetables and fruits and trees of life. Right? Like you need to get that garden set. Like that was my recommendation to her. And, to start doing castor oil packs. Cause my first thing in practice with everyone is castor oil packs, a sleep kit, gratitude practice, use our poop spray. Cause it also has essential oils that are calming, that, help with digestion and help with the gut, rosemary also, which helps with thyroid. Like it's all purposeful. All of this you may see it as one thing, but all of my tools in my Queen's kit actually is to help you to own your throne. And if you feel that your purpose and one of your passions to have a baby, well then get yourself a Queen's kit so that you can own it. And so she actually, what's really interesting, she actually stopped seeing me because she was headstrong, and that's fine. And I get it. She wasn't ready for my message. Right. But I planted the seeds of that message about her garden. And then, 4 years later, she came back, she'd done 3 or 4 for IVF rounds, to the point where, she's like, I can't keep spending this money. Like I can't do it. And she says to me, she goes, what has rung in my heart and in my mind since the last time I saw you. And, I always accept patients no matter what. Like I get the journey. I know about resistance. And she says, but what kept on ringing in my mind true was that, my body is a garden and it's just not fertile because I haven't tended to it the way I need to. Mm-hmm. And so I said, great. I go, are you ready? She's like, I'm ready. And I'm like, let's do this. And, so we did it. She did the castor oil pack. She was religious. It rebuilt her faith. She felt so much better. And she was super overweight. She lost about 80 pounds with the castor oil packs, with the good diet. We tested her food sensitivities. We did her hormones. We did it all. And, she was pregnant, and now she's working on her second, and she's one of our best patient advocates, obviously. Right. And she just loves her castor oil pack. She's so happy. She does all the practices. She honestly buys them for everyone for Christmas every year. She's just so awesome. But it's because, she experienced it. We added the gratitude practices into her life. I need to go to her home and do a video. She's got our poop sprays everywhere. She's just so awesome, right? We love her so much. But she really took it, and she said to me, she goes, the investment she made in doing the natural stuff was so much less than the investment that she made in the IVS, and she got pregnant naturally without even having to do any IVS. Mm-hmm. But it did take time. It took initially a few years for her to reset her body. It takes time to reset your body, but then she got what she wanted, and now second one on the way. So it's so cool. Right.
Yeah. And healthy pregnancy, healthy children. Because if you don't address this stuff like me, it's years later it eventually comes home.
And you know what? She's actually all her kids do castor oil. There are of course patients in their practice. All her kids do castor oil packs. They all say gratitude together before they eat, practices. They all it's beautiful. Their entire life is the better for it. And now she's a big advocate because guess what? She feels so good. She wants everyone else in her environment to follow suit. And that's what happens. Like you end up becoming a really healthy virus with this stuff, like trying to, infect, so to say, people with your, or your contagious happiness and feeling better attitude, right? When you start implementing these things.
Absolutely. And you have a free gift for our listeners here. So the 50 Shades of Poo, which you've talked about. So you can get that at drmarisol.ca/50 Shades of Poop. And what can they expect in there? You sort of alluded to it before.
Yeah. So it's an awesome, easy to digest. Of course, everything I like to do makes it super easy to add into your practice. And it's an infographic guide about the color of your poos and then the next steps on what to do to start that first step in your journey.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Dr. Marisol. This stuff is absolutely fascinating. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast, and thanks for sharing your words of wisdom.
Oh, I'm just delighted. And like I said, I just want people to know practice makes progress. And, you can rebuild the faith back into your body, that your body can heal. All it takes is to take that first step in faith. So do it today. Awesome. Love you all and lots of light.
Thank you. Melatonin is important for female fertility. It helps regulate hormones and maintain the body's circadian rhythms. Plus, it helps determine the frequency and duration of the menstrual cycle. Plus, it impacts sperm count and motility. Blue and green light negatively impact our melatonin production. That's why we recommend Blue Blocks, blue and green light sleep glasses to all our one-to-one clients. Simply go to Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout to receive your 15% discount. That's BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast. Hey there, I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call is for action takers, really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, FABfertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's FabFertile, FABfertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.